Hello and welcome along to this UCAS International Podcast sub-series. This is called Across the Nations, where we take you across the 4 nations of the UK and tell you about the similarities and differences, what you may expect if you come and study in the UK. And in this episode, we are focusing all on England, and we're going to do that with myself, Robbie James, and my 2 wonderful guests. Welcome along to Caroline Halling from Royal Holloway, University of London, and also Johnny Parks from Lancaster University. Nice to see you both. Welcome along to the podcast. Caroline, let's start with you. Let's give us England's selling points then. What makes England a little bit different, in your opinion, to the other 3 nations in the UK?
Yeah. Now, I definitely don't want to focus just on London, as amazing as a city it is, but all of our cities. I'm a big football fan and music fan and shopping and history fan. And we know, England has so much history, so much to do. The music scene, the gigs, also 3-year degrees, as people will know, at undergrad level, compared to some of the countries. Scotland, obviously, is 4 years. But focusing on London a little, just because it's such an amazing travel hub, the ability to get to Paris in a couple of hours, 6 airports within about an hour of London just to jet away to Europe, cheap flights with certain airlines. I can sometimes get to Athens or Prague cheaper than I can, sadly, to other cities in the UK. So kind of using that ability to travel Europe as well.
It is extremely well connected. It's good that we've got you in London for balance, and then we've got Johnny in Lancaster, which, although it starts with the same letter, is actually quite far away. You're up sort of the other end, realistically, of England, aren't you, Johnny? Tell us a little bit, in your opinion, what's it like to study in England specifically?
Yeah, sure. So I think for me, one of the best things about being in England is having those connections to such varied parts of the country, different landscapes, different geographical areas. So where we are in Lancaster, fun fact for you here, we are pretty much in the geographical centre of the United Kingdom, and I feel like someone will probably fact check me on that. But that means that we have the Lake District on our doorstep, amazing, beautiful locations. You can get up to Scotland within a few hours. And actually, even though you said London is a little bit of a journey away, it is 2.5 hours on the train. So the go-to example that I would say for universities in the north is, if you're on that West Coast main line, you can get from Lancaster, get down to London, do some shopping, go see a West End show, and then if you get the right train, you can be back in the north and you can have fish and chips for tea. And to me, that sounds pretty okay.
I like that you went straight in with the most English meal we could find, fish and chips. Crucially, do you want to just whilst we're on that topic, do you want to explain mushy peas? Because I feel like mushy peas are not a thing you get everywhere. What are they?
I think the question has to be, is it mushy peas or is it regular peas with your fish and chips?
I'd like to throw in gravy or curry sauce as well.
Gravy or curry sauce. Okay, that's, yeah, I'm in that row. I'm going to say it's just one of those trial and error. Give it a go and see what you think. That's the food covered. I'm pleased that we can tick that box off. What about the academic side of things? Caroline, you mentioned they're 3-year courses, whereas they may be a little longer in other nations in the UK. What other sort of selling points are there from an academic point of view in England?
Yeah, so due to the 3 years, it's a lot more focused. Courses tend to focus on 1 or maybe 2 subjects, although there are still some kind of general 3-year programs. A lot of student support, I would say, kind of England is known more comparable to kind of in Europe and other parts of the world, but a lot of student support, a lot of kind of sports clubs and societies encouraged. We want students, of course, to study hard, but live at the university, have a great time, get a part-time job, learn a language, join a Model UN society. So kind of the whole package of going to university and living there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the unique selling points to England, isn't it? That we've got some of the oldest, most prestigious universities in the world, but then you also have the opportunity to do all sorts of random courses at random places. You could learn to become a football manager if you want to. Loads of different options available. Would you go along with that, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the great things about studying in the UK and England is that variety of courses and choices. So when students are looking at their main choice of course, I would encourage them to look at, can I look at some kind of study abroad that I can include with that? Can I look at doing a work placement or an industry year? When I look back at my time at university a few years ago now, one of the pieces of advice that I would definitely give to my kind of former self as a student from England would be, try and see what other additional things you can throw in alongside your degree, and try as much of that as possible, because everyone comes out with a degree, but all those little things that you can put alongside it just helps you stand out. And I think that really helps actually for jobs and CVs later on.
And we'll come on to sort of later life and the opportunities that it could present you once you finish studying shortly. Just quickly, I want to touch on things like accommodation and the housing situation in England as well, Caroline. Just tell us a little bit about that, how many options there are available.
Yes, so many universities, and certainly kind of campus universities, will guarantee accommodation, sometimes for the first year, some universities for the duration of studies as well. And you will have many options, usually a single bedroom, but there are some universities doing kind of shared 2 to a room, but typically a private bedroom, and then you can pay more to have your own bathroom, which we often call ensuite. Often shared kitchens, but you can sometimes pay more to have your own kitchen as well. And some universities will offer dining, or typically kind of self-catered. So lots of different options. It's lovely to live on campus with other students from around the world and lots of British students. Everyone is in the same position of having to learn how to do their washing, managing their finances, settling in a new country. So kind of the whole living at university in student accommodation, such a lovely experience.
And it's funny, we may not be geographically, England may not be geographically the biggest country, but actually we're very diverse, aren't we, in England? And there are lots of different people, different cultures coming from different areas. And Johnny, you may well find in your accommodation setting that, not everyone talks with the sort of classic London posh RP accent. You may well find people with different accents and different cultures and coming from different experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, reflecting on my own experience of university, in my second year house, I remember living with someone from Norway, someone from the Philippines, someone from Bulgaria. And then in my master's, I lived with someone from Afghanistan, someone from Malaysia. So it was super, super varied. And I think that's something that you see across universities in the UK. We've got people coming to us from all around the world for that experience.
It's a really cool thing. What about the sort of scholarships perspective and also costings? Caroline, I know that there's probably a bit of a myth, isn't there, that England is expensive because it's London and London is expensive. Try and put that into a little bit of context for us regarding the actual costings of studying in England, and also the scholarships and potential other opportunities, bursaries, grants that may be available.
Yeah, certainly. And I'll start with, there is and are a lot of scholarships and funding available to students, but it does differ per university and sometimes per course as well. We'll go back to the 3 years. Of course, by doing 3 years, you save a year of fees and living costs. I'll be honest, London is going to be more expensive than a rural university, up north or kind of out of kind of the big cities. So kind of London and also kind of your Liverpools, Manchesters. So for students, do look at the city versus rural. Also remember that students get lots of discounts with your student and national insurance card as well. And
so that's on things like food, clothes, potential subscriptions, etc.
Yes, there's lots of different student apps and then your NUS card as well. But yeah, they can get discounts at chain shops and supermarkets, as you say, train tickets. But going back to kind of fees, they do differ per course. Typically, the science and kind of courses that use kind of equipment and things like computer science, psychology, they can be more expensive than theory type courses or humanity courses, something like history or business. And then think about the scholarships. So like I mentioned, every university has different scholarships. Some will be on academic merit. So kind of if you get 32 IB points or AAB or whatever it might be, some will be department specific and some may be for particular countries. So it is tricky for students because they have to look at all the universities and the offerings, but there are some really good scholarships out there. So it's just kind of putting the time in to do the research.
And I know that this is a big old topic, Johnny, and there's thankfully a UCAS International podcast dedicated to this whole topic, but I just want to finish off by talking about employment and the opportunities there are once you've finished studying. Plenty of opportunities available in England? Question mark?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I would encourage all international students to do from the point that they arrive at their university is to connect with their university careers teams as soon as they can, and not to use careers teams when they feel like they have to, when it's maybe a little bit too late. So like at Lancaster, we encourage students to reach out, book a one-to-one appointment, and start visiting careers fairs, start building those networks with employers. Going back to that point about travel and getting around the UK, I think that's actually one of the things which makes the UK, England, a great place for work and for employment. Because if you're at a university and you need to travel to another location for an interview or even just relocate for work, the distances involved, maybe they're not quite as big as if you're in other parts of the world. So it's easier to travel around the country. I think within the UK as well, and England, there are so many different routes and avenues that you can go down. We've got strong centres for business, strong centres in STEM fields, within the sciences, but also in the arts. So I think there's a real breadth of opportunities and lots of different subjects and areas that students can explore.
Very good stuff. And I think a good word there from you, Johnny, is basically speak to people like you and Caroline, because you're lovely, aren't you? Look at their lovely faces. Very, very friendly. Good stuff. Thank you very much to both of you. That was a bit more of an insight into what studying in England could look like. If you would like to find out more information about the other three nations, you can do in our Across the Nations sub-series, all available via the UCAS International podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts, or of course on YouTube. And if you find us on YouTube, make sure you click subscribe. We will speak soon.